Welcome to the Hebrew University webinars with Professor Edwin Seroussi. I would like first to introduce to all of you Nadia Gut-Biazini. She's the president of our Friends of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem of German-speaking Switzerland, and the driving force of this event and many, many others events in Switzerland. So I would like to give the floor to Nadia, and she will introduce Heidi and Edwin. Please.
Yes, welcome. Thank you, Mara. Welcome to all our participants from Europe, from the different countries. We still have to find out from where: Israel, the USA, and Canada. I'm very glad to present this Hanukkah season's webinar dedicated to Jewish music, the research of it, and also the online platform in Jewish music. Edwin Seroussi, an eminent scholar in Jewish music of the Mediterranean and the Middle East, has been a long-term friend of our friends and also of myself, and particularly also of Heidi Zimmermann. The online platform of the Hebrew University of Jerusalem has to be renewed, the online platform of Jewish music, renovated, and the research for and connected to it needs an additional boost. Hence, our association and myself have decided to match any donation dedicated to this project of Jewish music, which is transferred to our account until December 31 of this year. Your help contribution will be essential for the renewal of the online platform of Jewish music and also the continuation of Jewish music research at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. Heidi Zimmermann, Dr. Heidi Zimmermann, a musicologist, will introduce Edwin and moderate our webinar. Heidi has been our board member for quite a few years and has been holding the position of research staff and curator at the Paul Sacher Foundation here in Basel for 20 years. This unique foundation is the home of more than 100 estates, way more than 100 estates of composers of the 20th century and contemporary music. It encompasses the complete partitions, oeuvre, and documents of Stravinsky, Bartók, Darius Milhaud, Kurtág, Ligeti, Volpe, and many, many more. In addition, the foundation hosts estates of some famous quartets and orchestras. I can recommend a look at the website of the Sacher Stiftung as well, Paul Sacher Stiftung, which gets constantly renewed. Now I would like to pass over the microphone and to Heidi Zimmermann.
Thank you very much, Nadia, for this nice introduction, friendly introduction. I must say, however, the website of the Paul Sacher Foundation is ridiculous in comparison to that of the Jewish Music Research Center. So don't expect too much when you visit it. Now, good evening, everybody. I'm very glad to be part of the webinar today, all the more as I feel strongly attached to the Hebrew University since I studied there for a year during the 1990s. This was a year full of discoveries and learning. And of course, I also visited the Jewish Music Research Center during that time. When I returned home from Jerusalem, my suitcase was extremely heavy as I had to schlep all the publications and CDs which I had bought at the Jewish Music Research Center. Since then, I have profited a lot from their research in my own studies. It is an honor for me to introduce now Professor Edwin Seroussi, who has been the director of the Jewish Music Research Center during the last 22 years. Of course, he is a well-known personality among the Swiss-German Friends of the Hebrew University, but let me anyway remind a few data. Edwin was born in Uruguay and immigrated to Israel in 1971. After studying musicology at the Hebrew University, he went to the US and earned his doctorate at the University of California, Los Angeles in 1988. When he came back, he first taught several years at Bar-Ilan University before his transfer to Jerusalem in the year 2000. Edwin's research spans a great variety of studies on the history of Jewish music, especially among the very different Sephardic communities. For all his achievements, he won the Israel Prize in 2018. As director of the Jewish Music Research Center, Edwin is the coordinator of all research conducted there, and he is also the principal editor of all the publications of printed books as well as of sound documents. I think one of his important achievements was that he has led the research center from a nice little old-fashioned institute to the era of internet and digital humanities. During the last 20 years, he has developed an amazing online platform which offers a huge amount of knowledge and source material. Now, as Edwin Seroussi will retire quite soon and is preparing for the future of the Jewish Music Research Center and its facilities, it's a good moment to draw a balance, to have a look into the past and see what is needed for the years to come. Certainly not only ideas and concepts, but also the appropriate financial support. I'd like to hand over now to Edwin and to open the microphone for your presentation. After that, we will have a discussion, and towards the end of the webinar, there is space for questions from all the participants as well. Please, Edwin, the microphone is yours.
So just before we begin, I would like to tell everybody to write their question in the question and answer box, because the chat, it doesn't work. So please take care of this. And also after the webinar, we will send everybody the recording of the webinar and with the data, with more data to help the research center. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Nadia, for your kind introduction and for your support, and for organizing this event. And thank you, Heidi, for your kind introduction. Most of my presentation will be on a PowerPoint presentation, and eventually I will be very glad to talk to you more, as much as you will be interested in the work we do. I will start just with a very few short remarks, because the main part of my presentation is to play music for you. That's the way I present our work. I can talk here for many hours, and you won't understand the deepness of our mission and our work. Our mission is mostly to understand Judaism through music. One can get an insight into culture through music in ways that you cannot with other means of communication. We believe in the power of music. You know the power of music, and through music, we can better understand who we are. But we also want, or see as a mission, to make Jewish music accessible to all. You will be hearing some musical documents that, unless the work done by the Hebrew University for several generations, these treasures would never be accessible to the public in general. And as Heidi already suggested, we are moving into the newest technologies in order to make our mission possible and to achieve our goals. Well, there is music at the Hebrew University. I am telling this because many times where I meet with friends of the Hebrew University, I get this response: we didn't know that you teach music at the Hebrew University. Not only we do that, but teaching and researching music in the Hebrew University goes back to the year 1936, when the university was about 10 years old. And an archive of Oriental music, that's the way it was called, was founded. I will show you in a minute who was the founder. But only in 1963, music was introduced to the Hebrew University as a subject of teaching and research. On that year, the Department of Musicology was opened with the mission of training music scholars and educators. The Department of Music at the Jewish National University Library, today the National Library of Israel, was also opened on that year with the mission of documenting, archiving, and preserving music for future generations. And finally, our Jewish Music Research Center was founded also in that year with a mission of making high-quality research and publications accessible to educators, artists, and scholars. And I stress that our mission is not exclusively one directed to scholars, but also we talk and we are in contact with educators and artists who benefit from the work we do. I will now address a little bit about the past, then the present, and most importantly, about the future. So I mentioned 1936 at the beginning, and our beginnings has to do with Europe. It has to do with the rise of the Nazis in Germany, the Nazi Party, and the man that you see here, Professor Robert Lachmann from Berlin, one of the greatest ethnomusicologists of his time. He was just fired from his position as the chief music librarian of the State Library in Berlin, and he came to Jerusalem where we established the first archive of Oriental music. So the origins of music at the Hebrew University has a lot to do, as you will see, with refugee immigrants coming from Europe, mostly from Germany. Our original benefactors, when in 1963 music was opened to the Hebrew University public, the students and scholars, many of the greatest Jewish musicians of the world engaged with supporting this mission. Among them, the great Arthur Rubinstein that you can see here playing the piano, and those who know the campus, the Safra campus in Givat Ram, can recognize the building in the background. That's the administration of the Hebrew University. Not only Rubinstein, but also Yehudi Menuhin, Eugene Ormandy and his family, his daughter who was from Switzerland, and finally, Paul Zacher, the same Paul Zacher that founded the amazing foundation that Nadia mentioned, and that Heidi is today one of the chief figures there. Mr. Zacher has supported the Jewish Music Research Center for many, many years. Our first teachers, this has also to do with immigrants from Europe. Here we have Professor Yosef Tal of blessed memory, one of my teachers. He came also from Germany in the mid-1930s, one of the greatest composers of Israel, and I would say one of the latest German composers in the world in general, a person of incredible artistic achievements, Professor Yosef Tal, the first chairman of the Department of Musicology at Hebrew University, and the founder of the Jewish Music Research Center, Professor Adler, also from Berlin, also a German refugee, except that he came much younger, and he established not only the Jewish Music Research Center, but also the music department at the National University Library. The present, how we research, teach, and enrich our society through music. Well, without sounding a little bit presumptuous, we can do things that others can't do. And we can do that because we have access to unlimited sound and archival resources on Jewish music. What has been accumulated for the past 60 years has no competitors around the world in terms of the richness in numbers and in quality. We also know most Jewish musical and spoken languages. And I'm stating this because I have found all around the world that there are many students of Jewish music who don't know Hebrew or don't know Yiddish and don't know Ladino, and still they speak about that music. We speak about the music also by knowing all the possible languages, not only Yiddish, Hebrew, and Ladino, but also Judeo-Arabic, Judeo-Persian, Jewry, which is Judeo-Caucasian, and more. Besides that, we are scholars dedicated to creativity and imagination. We try to present the results of our work in the best possible and more creative ways. So this is the middle part of my presentation, and I will go fast since Hanukkah is coming, and since, as Nadia said, this is a Hanukkah or pre-Hanukkah event. Let's hear something about how we present the main song of Hanukkah, the Piyut, the religious song, Maoz Tzur. This is part of a presentation that I prepared during the Hanukkah of the Corona period for the Friends of Hebrew University in the United States. You can watch this program, this entire program, in our YouTube channel. So what I will just do here is just show you a few of the musical examples to celebrate together the forthcoming holiday season of Hanukkah. Let's hear, first of all, what I call the official Israeli version, which was recorded by the Kol Israel, the Radio Israel Choir in 1962. All these recordings are from the Hebrew University archive, now deposited at the National Library of Israel. So how can we know that a person is an Israeli during Hanukkah? Because only the Israelis sing the second voice that you hear in this arrangement by Ariel Lebanon. Azekmor, Azekmor, Beshir, Mizmor, Beshir, Mizmor. That imitation is an Israeli imitation. So music can teach us where are you from in terms of the Jewish people. We know a lot about this song because previous generations of scholars have dedicated work to them. Here I present a couple of them. Edward Birnbaum from Königsberg, from Prussia, one of the founders or the initiators of Jewish music research, to whom we own a lot. And here you see his publication of Maoz Tzur, arranged for pianoforte. The great Birnbaum collection at the Hebrew Union College in Cincinnati is one of the main tasks of our center to catalog that collection in America. How do we know since when the song Maoz Tzur is sung to the tune that you just heard? Well, frankly, we cannot know. We can only know that there is such a song from the moment we have musical notation or a recording. Musical notation came to Judaism very late, but we have some indications. And here you have some literary indications in Hebrew, of course. And we have a book by Meister Bender Baruch ben Samson Arweiler, and he wrote a poem, and he says, I wrote this poem on the nigun, on the melody of Maoz Tzur Yeshuati, about the 4 Galuyot and Hanukkah in the year 1450. We believe that what he is referring to is one of the melodies that we know until this very day. That is, in other words, by 1450, there was a melody of Maoz Tzur that was very well known. And perhaps this melody teaches a little bit about the Judeo-German musical encounters in the past. Let's listen a little bit to this chorale by Luther, and perhaps we can hear something of Maoz Tzur. So undoubtedly, the melody of Maoz Tzur, the one that we know today, most people know today, has its root in this Judeo-German encounter sometime in the 14th or 15th century. The first musical notation, you can see that here, we have that from a manuscript by Judah Hanover, and was written in 1744, from which we know that the melody we know today already existed. And we have this manuscript thanks to Edward Birnbaum, who preserved it in his collection, and to Israel Adler, the founder of the Jewish Music Research Center, who studied this manuscript. The melody appears in many sources. Here we have Lord Byron's Hebrew melody set to music by Isaac Nathan in London, 1815. Here we have the study of Maoz Tzur by many scholars, particularly this scholar, Avraham Tzvi Edelson, arguably the founder of modern Jewish music research. His big picture is in our office. We see him as our inspiration. Another scholar who wrote about Maoz Tzur, my own teacher, Hanocha Ben-Ari of blessed memory, he also contributed a lot to the knowledge. And one of the most interesting documents regarding Maoz Tzur is this musical notation from 1724 from Venice. And you see that is with the text in Hebrew underlay, and this was not done by a Jew, by a Christian composer, Benedetto Marcello, very famous composer from the Italian Baroque, who wanted to have the church music being based on the most authentic Christian music. What is the most authentic Christian music? Jewish music. And he went to the synagogues of the ghetto to collect these songs. Let's hear just a few bars from the melody that he collected in Venice in the 1720s. We have collected Maoz Tzur in so many different versions, and definitely different communities have preserved different memories of this song. Let's hear a version now from Hungary. You can hear the Jewish musical diversity of modern Judaism here with a very heavy Hungarian accent in Hebrew.
Maoz Tzur Yeshuasi, lecho noel leshabeach, tikoin bes tefilosi, veshom taidon nezabeach, leistochin matbeach, mitzor hamnabeach, ozeg moir beshir mizmoir, chanikas hamizbeach.
Many of the melodies we have collected don't exist anymore. They were forgotten. And we are fortunate enough to have scholars of great vision at the Hebrew University who study not these musical traditions and recording them for posterity. Let's hear another recording. This is a melody from Frankfurt that very few people know today. And this was recorded already in 1957 by another important musicologist who came, in this case, from Hungary to Israel, Avigdor Herzog.
Masu Yeshuati Lechana El Shabeach Tikon Bet Tefilati Vesham Todan Zabeach Le'et Tachin Matbeach Mitzam nabeach azegmor b'shir mizmor Chanukat hamizbeach.
We have, and as another mission, to revive Jewish music. A lot of music that remained in the archives is not performed anymore, was totally forgotten. And sometimes we can learn by hearing to the Jewish sounds of the past about the aesthetic sensibilities of our ancestors. Let's hear now a version of the brachot, of the blessings for Hanukkah, arranged by Samuel David, a very important figure in Jewish music in France in the 19th century. And this is a revived performance, a modern performance. So if you went to the synagogue in Paris around 1870, 1880, this is the way you will hear the blessings for Hanukkah. We have the many Hasidic versions. The Hasidim do something else. They get into ecstasies in Maosur, and here we have a field recording of an authentic Tish, an authentic gathering of Hasidim in Jerusalem, 1987, singing not the beginning of the song Maosur, but the stanza that deals with the Greeks. I'm sorry that I cannot play all these examples. They take a lot of time, but one is more exciting than the other. And the more you hear about the Jewish musical diversity, this huge universe of music, but we can learn also about the different approaches of music of different Jews in different periods and in different times. The famous melody of Maosur was not very much liked by many intellectuals, Jewish intellectuals of the 20th century, and therefore we can learn about ideological struggles in Judaism also through music. And here you have an article against Mao's Zur, against the melody, the German melody of Mao's Zur, by the very famous cantor Leib Glanz. He composed a new melody, and I can promise you that his new melody never caught with anybody. And to finish, we have learning through music about the Jewishness of Israeli culture. What elements of music Israeli culture has absorbed and taken from Jewish traditions, and which one they have renovated. So here you have one of the many albums of holiday songs for Israeli kids, and we have actually the Mao's Zur, not the German one, but the version from Venice, collected by the Christian composer Marcello and written down in these very old musical notations, revived by Israelis as an option to that, so to speak, Galutic German melody. Let's listen just a few bars of this old Venetian melody, renewed as an Israeli children's song.
צור ישועתי לך נאה לשבח תיכון בית תפילתי ושם תודה נזבח לעת אחים מטבע מצער המנבא אז אגמור בשיר מזמור חנוכת המזבח.
We will end with the future, which is what brings us to this webinar. The Jewish Music Research Center is very fastly moving from physical to digital. One of our latest publications, this one that you see in front of you, has two components. It has a book that was published as in paper, but we added a tremendous amount of sound that is available only online. So what you just heard is Avinu Malkeinu from the High Holidays, as it was sung in the area of Stuttgart in the early 19th century, as preserved in a manuscript, edited by us, and re-recorded by a young cantor on our behalf, and put online for the benefit of whoever wants or is interested on these materials. Again, and repeat, many educators use our materials, not only scholars. We move not only now the sound into the digital, but also the print into the digital. We stop printing and using papers. That's very good ecologically, of course. So our latest publication in the series of, so to speak, CDs never appeared in CD. It just appeared online. Here you have a collection of Ladino songs, Judeo-Spanish songs, as they were recorded in the first 10 years of the 20th century. The oldest recordings of Jewish music that we have are these Ladino songs recorded around 1907 to 1912. Let's hear just a few bars to end. So what you just heard are recordings that were done in the beginning of the 20th century. So you're hearing voices of people who lived mostly in the 19th century. These recordings were buried in an archive in London. We bought the rights to publish these recordings, and today they are available online. Let me finish by moving into our website. This is how the website looks today. It's relatively not very old, it's 5 years old, but we decided that we have to revamp. And this is how the new website will look. It's not finished, but it's on the making, very new, and we are very much invested into this new project. The most important issue with the new approaches is that we are stopping in putting our materials for sale. We are going to give, from this point on, everything in open source for whoever wants to use and listen to our materials. We have a very sophisticated application that we have developed. We don't have the time to show it now. Perhaps during the questions, if you want, I can show you how it looks. However, it's a map, and it's Jewish music map. You can look at the map and try and find in the map located all the Jewish music in place and time, and get all the information you need about the music. So I will stop here because I want to keep the timetable that we decided on. And again, I want to thank you all for your support, not only for the Jewish Music Research Center, but also for the Hebrew University in general. And again, thank you so much, Nadia, for organizing this event. And thank you, Heidi, for introducing me. And you have a very nice evening. And I give you back, Heidi, the microphone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edwin, for this wonderful presentation and introduction on the work which has been done at the Jewish Music Research Center. To start the discussion, maybe I would like to stress a point which you mentioned in the background. You are collaborating with the Sound Archive of the National Library of Israel, which is a huge source. I think it has thousands, if not millions, of recordings collected during the last 80 or 90 years. And I think a very important point is to know, or to always keep in mind, that an archive is actually nothing without research and without people who are looking for histories to tell stories and who explain certain traces through this archive. So as you did with Mao's tour, of course, you didn't do a Google research and found all these sources. Everybody can imagine, but this is obviously the result of a long-during research and accumulation, collection of examples and recordings. And I imagine that one of your important works or project is to do more and more research and to enhance this research also with younger people. So can you say a few words about your collaboration with the Sound Archive on one side and with the Hebrew University on the other?
Yeah. Thank you very much. This is a very important question because sometimes it leads to some misunderstandings. The Jewish Music Research Center is part of the Faculty of Humanities of the Hebrew University. And the fact that we were embedded in the National Library is because the National Library used to be the university library. The moment the university conceived the National Library or accepted the idea of having the National Library as a separate state institution of the State of Israel, the music collection of the Hebrew University became the music collection of the National Library, basically the music collection of the State of Israel and of the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. So that is an institutional issue, Heidi. It's not a problem at all. We consider our collection as our collection. As researchers of the Hebrew University, we have total free access to this collection, which includes all my own recordings, okay, that are part of the National Library. And therefore, there is a symbiosis between the institutions, and the work is done mostly by graduate students of us that work in creating the contents of the work we publish. So as you said, trying to find all the Maus Tzurs within the archive takes a lot of time. But today, when people Google Maus Tzur, they get to the Jewish Music Research Center and they get access to these recordings that otherwise they will never find.
So may I add another question? Is the sound archive, is it completely digitized, and are all the metadata supplied already?
Yes. The archive is totally digitized. It includes about 60,000 hours of recordings of not only, by the way, Jewish music, but since this is a state archive, it includes also music from the area, from the Middle East, Arab music traditions, Bedouin music, and you name it. The archive is huge. It is accessible online only partially because of copyright reasons. Mm-hmm. And parts of the archive can be heard only when you come to the building of the National Library in Jerusalem. But that's a good reason to come to Jerusalem, to come to the Sound Archive.
Exactly.
It's a place where you can come and never leave, because for 60,000 hours, it's a lot of time to listen. So what we are trying to do is to mediate the archive and make it accessible through our publications and through our website.
So this part of the work, I mean, the sound archive and the exploitation of, accessibility of the sound archive, this is supported by the National Library. So, and your part is actually doing research. Yeah. Finding projects, finding the people who can do the projects.
Absolutely, and financing, and financing the students, who are our main resource to facilitate this, I may say, translation of the archive into something that is not only accessible, but also is understood within its widest cultural and historical context, because it's not enough to put a sound file. You have to know, first of all, what, if there is a text, what is the text, what is the context when it is performed, and then to understand the wider relationships, as I tried to show, for example, between the German Jewish tradition and the German Christian tradition, okay, in terms of sharing musical spaces. I think this is one of the most important lessons of studying Jewish music, is studying about the relationship between Jews and non-Jews in the past and in the present, in religious contexts, in non-religious contexts. And I think, as I said at the very beginning, that what you can learn through music, you cannot learn through text. And this is one of my most important teachings. Mm-hmm. That I try to convey to my students and to the public who listen to me in this webinar.
Of course. So this is sort of an overall background concept which you follow. But maybe you can say a few words about projects which are going on now, or which you plan.
Absolutely.
What are the directions you would like to do further research?
Yeah, so we have several projects going on right now, but I want to focus on the two main goals of this webinar too, and on the support that we are counting from our European friends. There is the content and there is the technology of presentation. So we are investing also in the technology of presentation, which means the website and the mapping of Jewish music, and particularly enriching the website in a way that is not only easy accessible, but is very sophisticated in the search, because now there is so much material that the searching engine should be very sophisticated. In terms of content, right now, we are working on the Spanish-Portuguese liturgy. This is the liturgy of all the Sephardic communities who settle in Western Europe after usually founded by converso Jews, Jews who were Christians and returned to Judaism in Amsterdam, in Hamburg, in southwest France, in Venice, Livorno. So it's a huge book with the entire liturgical music that was collected also over at least 6 decades. It includes all the musical transcriptions, all the texts, but also the explanations. We have an amazing other project. This is the women's song. We also, of course, dedicate a lot of our effort to the voice of women, not only of men. And this is important to know too, I think, these days. So we have this amazing project of which we already published 1 CD, but now we are publishing the entire repertoire of Judeo-Malayalam songs. These are songs of the Jews of the state of Kerala in southwest India, a very ancient Jewish community that speaks this language, Malayalam, and we have recorded, when I say we, scholars have recorded them in India and in Israel after the immigration, and we are publishing all these songs. I myself have worked a lot on music of the Jews in the Ottoman Empire, and I hope to publish also on that. And I can go on and on and on, okay? We have research on Hasidic music. By the way, the research on Hasidic music is now being done with a new platform of one of my students, one of my people who is going to succeed me here at the Jewish Music Research Center. And it's interesting because it's a platform that involves the Hasidim themselves in the research, because they can upload materials and comment on our archive without having the necessity of coming to campus and to talk to us. They can do that from far away. They can do that anonymously and still create a database that contribute to this dialogue with the Hasidic community. This is just on the nutshell, okay? I don't want to, to mention so many projects, but this is just a selection.
And how do you find your young researchers? I mean, are they musicologists or historians? I mean, you need both.
These are all musicologists who specialize in Jewish music.
Yep.
By the way, most of them are active musicians too. Okay, they perform, they play, they sing. So they are very multifaceted, I must say, young people. They are brilliant, and how I found them, I don't know. They came to me, and I was very glad to help them to develop. And some of them are becoming major figures in their field.
So these are PhD programs or things like that?
PhD, master, PhD. First of all, they start as undergraduate, then they move to the master. So many of them wrote master thesis on Jewish music. For example, I had a student, she recently finished her thesis on the music of the Reform synagogues in Israel. This is a subject that almost nobody talks because the Reform movement in Israel is almost in the underground, okay? And this is the first work ever done on a Reform synagogue in Haifa, in Israel. I have students who also musicologists who do not do Jewish music. I have a student who have written about the music in Iran, modern music in Iran. So it's not all about Jewish music that I teach. but those who studied Jewish music are the backbone of the Jewish Music Research Center. I think we have some questions in the...
Maybe we have one. Let's see. Oh, yes. There's one question. I pass it to you. Do you also collect modern Israeli popular music? Incredibly rich.
Yes. Well, the field of Israeli popular music was not one of our main foci of research, even though I think arguably my most famous book is called Popular Music in Israel with my colleague Moti Regev. So the study of Israeli music is a very interesting question. Where is there at all borderline between Israeli and Jewish music? And that's a conceptual question that we should ask. And this is a practical question we have to ask, whether we have to deal with Israeli music. So what we try to do is to speak about the foundations of the Israeli musical culture as a popular culture. What I mean is, for example, we have one of our most beautiful CDs, recordings of Hebrew children's songs that we recorded from people that were 70, 80 years old, 50 years ago, 40 years ago. So this was the foundation of the Israeli children's song repertoire that we documented, because it was already like an historical document, okay? We don't address pop songs that are written a week ago. That's important, but that's the mandate of other scholars. So the limits that we pose depend on first of all, on the interest of the researchers. They are the ones who decide what they do and where they draw the lines. And I think that it's important to know that the National Library of Israel preserves all the music of Israel. There is a law of the Knesset that any CD or video published in Israel, a copy has to be sent to the National Library. So as a repository, the archive has all what you want. In terms of research, we try to keep the global Jewish profile and the expression of this Jewish profile in Israel too. So from our point of view, Israel is no different than Germany or England or the United States in terms of our approach. And of course, needless to say, since Israel, the population of Israel consists of immigrants, a lot of the diasporic traditions can only be documented today in Israel. Mm-hmm. So a lot of our ethnography, most of our ethnography is done in Israel, and certainly the moment that a music moves from, let's say, Morocco to Israel, there is something that happens to it that has to be accounted for, okay? I can tell you that in the research of Hebrew language, one of our greatest linguists, Professor Morag, he used to go to Haifa, to the harbor in the 50s, and go to the ships to record how people speak Hebrew, because he said the moment they put the foot in Israel, their Hebrew changes. So the same for the music. However, if you want to study today the music of the Jews of Tunisia, you have to come to Israel or to Paris, to France, where all the Tunisian Jews live, in Israel or in France. So from the perspective of Tunisian Jewish music research, you cannot go to Tunisia because there are almost no Jews left in Tunisia. So we are speaking about diasporic traditions, traditions that have moved and been relocated in other places.
Maybe there is an aspect in this, if I may mention this, that in earlier times, musicologists thought that there is an old, pure Jewish music which can be reconstructed or found somewhere, I don't know. And I think we have moved far away from this idea. And as nearer as we come to the present, as more is it mixed?
Yeah.
Or we
Yeah,
can see how it
absolutely.
is mixed.
Even though Heidi, I have to tell you that question did not disappear, and there is.
I know.
In almost every presentation I do, the question is asked. What is the most original Jewish music? And both you and me know how to answer that. But we truly believe that in the oral traditions that were preserved, there are echoes of ancient musical memories, no doubt. So that's all what we can say with a certain degree of responsibility that we are bound to as scholars. There was one slide that I jumped very quickly because people ask me how much you need for achieving what you achieve. I will just tell you one number. We have at any given moment between 3 to 4 graduate students working in content for the website. Each student costs around 10,000 euros a year. So that's one number that I can give. That is a very low number, and the results that we get from that small investment are amazing. Okay, the cost of our website changes every year. This couple of years, the cost is very high because we are constructing a new website. Usually, after the website is well established, we can make it with less of an amount. But this year, the website has, all in all, has cost us something around the 50,000 euros in general to construct both the graphics and the contents and to transfer all the content. So, as I said, the investment is minimal, and the revenue is maximal if we compare this with other needs of the Hebrew University.
And I think such an investment to support the students who can work on the website would be a double investment. Once, it would improve the website, and second, it would support the student himself.
Absolutely,
absolutely. Living. So
and make all this richness of material accessible to all the public. I repeat, not only scholars, but also the general public who uses our publications for pleasure, for learning, for enriching their lives. And I think I mentioned to you in the past, our website is visited by citizens from all around the globe. We have people we know this through Google, that people from Iran and from Saudi Arabia, they visit our website. So this is like a link, an unspoken link between us and the rest of the globe, the rest of the of our area, and in general, the rest of the world.
Okay, I think we have to come to an end quite soon. I have two final messages in the question and answers. One is just a nice note which I would like to read, and the other one is a question. Ramon Schlemmer says, "Thank you very much. I am also happy to hear about you recording music from the Jewish communities from Kerala. My paternal ancestors hail from Malabar, and we often visit Kochi Jews town."
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
yeah.
Oh yeah, he is a relative of Oskar Schlemmer, a relative of Oskar Schlemmer.
So and please tell him to send the address, and we will send him a CD as a present.
Okay, I'll tell him. And there is a question, a final question by Marilyn Segal, and she asks, as there is a war in Ukraine and so much is being destroyed, are there any efforts, or are there pre-existing archives, records, and more of what I assume is the rich Jewish musical history from Ukraine?
Oh, wow.
Those areas.
That's such an important question.
Good point to finish.
Shame on me that I didn't mention that one of our main projects is a project in collaboration with Kiev. And Kiev, the National Library of Kiev, the Vernadsky Library, holds the oldest collection of Jewish sound in the world.
Oh, yes, Beregovsky.
Yeah, the Beregovsky, his so-called Beregovsky collection that includes recordings done in the Russian Empire in 1912, 1913, 1914. And we really worried about our friends in Kiev. We are in contact with them, and we are processing their recordings by adding information to their website. So very soon we are going to publish jointly with Kiev. We continue to be, even in the middle of the war, these brave people go to the archive and continue to work in the middle of these bombings and sometimes without electricity. So yes, our collaboration with Kiev is one of the most important projects we have for this year and for the years to come. Thank you for that question. That was very important for me to say.
Thank you. And there are many thank yous and todas from the participants.
Thank you all for taking the time. I wish you a good evening. I wish you a very peaceful holiday season. And I hope that peace will come also to Ukraine. And this insanity will stop, really. I think that my friend Joseph Gurt has raised his hand.
I can open his, okay. Here, he can speak now.
Joseph, how are you? Yeah,
Joseph, you have to unmute. Maybe he has to unmute his microphone now.
Yeah, well.
Okay.
I think we are after 8, so I don't, here he is.
I'm just
Joseph.
Yes, here I am.
How are you?
And I'm very well, and I'm glad to hear this seminar from you. And
Thank you. Thank you for.
I'm very happy that to be in a way, a small way, associated with it.
Absolutely. For those who do not know, Joseph Gurt is one of our faithful supporters, particularly of research on Yiddish culture at the Jewish Music Research Center. And I'm very touched, Joseph, that you came in. Thank you so much.
Well, it was my pleasure and my privilege.
And my regards to both of you.
Thank you. Toda rabah.
Toda, please come and visit me again.
I wish.
I will visit you. I will go there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, there are so many reactions now, Edwin. I wish you could see them. Just
that's okay.
Maybe to finish, a note from Judith Cohen. She says that regarding Ukraine, just a note that she has been singing with the Toronto Ukrainian Canadian, mostly women, traditional polyphonic songs ensemble for years, and they have been doing so regularly since the war started.
Okay. Thank you, Judith. Thank you. And once again, thank you, Nadia, for organizing this. I appreciate this very, very much. And I hope that this is the beginning of a new chapter in the relation of the Jewish Music Research Center with the European friends. Thank you so much. Good night to everybody.
Chanukah Sameach.